Hey everyone, welcome back to Tea Time with MagicLinks. I am Brian from the MagicLinks team, and today we are going to be joined by one of my best friends from high school, actually, Naomie, Germain. And so give me a second, she's about to jump on and then we will get started.
Morning.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
Good. Oh my God, your hair.
Yes, this
This
happened. This
looks
happened.
so good.
I do have to address the purple tone you see. This was as the DIY queen I am, didn't do this on purpose, but I'm gonna
Wait,
stick
you
this
did this yourself? It looks good.
with you. I try to cancel out the brassiness in it, the purple state. So we'll see. I'm just gonna rock it.
Dude, I like I thought the purple was intentional. It looks good. That is awesome. No, I love it. Have you ever done your hair short like this before?
Never in my life. But I've been just all throughout quarantine, kind of feeling it, and just the matter of taking care of your hair. And I just thought, I got to start fresh. It's a new
Yes.
decade. Let's get this going. So
Oh
I'm
my
loving
gosh. That is incredible. You look so good and glowy. I'm
it.
like loving this look. You look great. Yeah. We'll just give a few more, let's give it a few minutes so a few more people can join.
Mhm.
In the meantime, so yeah, everyone, this is MagicLinks. And so we are doing tea time every Friday well, actually, we might switch the time up a little bit, but we're doing tea time once a week to join with different Black leaders in our community to really just discuss an array of topics. And no, the biggest point of this for us really is to just grow and learn as an organization and to help drive awareness to our community of brands and influencers and just as ourselves as an organization. So without further ado, this is Naomie Germain. If you want to sort of introduce yourself a little more.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Naomie Germain. I am born and raised here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm your former Miss New Mexico USA 2016. I currently live in Washington, D.C., and I am the legislative correspondent and systems administrator for the Office of Congresswoman Deb Haaland, one of the first Native American women elected to Congress. And, thank you to Brian and to MagicLinks for inviting me for this collaborative.
Yeah, it's so excited for you to join Naomie. It's like actually crazy. So for just like a little background for everyone to know, so Naomie and I went to high school together, and it's just like, yeah, same pious, go Sartans. And yeah, I mean, it's been a ride. Yeah, we've traveled internationally together. Like we've done quite a bit. So I mean, it's crazy to see you now really like just going full throttle, living your dreams, working on Capitol Hill, really pushing forward change. So yeah, Naomie, we are so thankful to have you. Thank you. Yeah, and so I mean, I guess like a little bit, just like a little bit more background about you, because you started. So I know that you had always had an interest in politics and really getting involved with policy making. So first, like, how did your experience winning Miss New Mexico and really having like a big public platform sort of get you ready to take this next step and move to Capitol Hill?
Yeah, so just to give some background on my Miss New Mexico story, it's not something that I had in the forefront of my mind or anything that I had really tried to push for. Um, you know, my mom, she's a very hyper excited type of person, and
Hmm.
since we were young was always working to get us involved in, any type of extracurricular she could, just to kind of give us a little taste of everything, that the world has to offer. And so I had gotten a text from her to me and my sister saying, hey, I met this guy at the mall, and he said that you two should do pageants. So I entered you, and it's in a couple months. And it was kind of like, oh, okay. She gets excited about things and kind of forgets. So I was kind of banking on that, but she did not forget about this one. So we competed. I had my first taste of the pageant life at the city level, and I honestly loved it so much. I was amazed by, you get to see a little bit of a world that you only see the outside view on. I competed with girls who were getting their doctorates, were business owners. And I was like, it was so inspiring to me. I thought, like, I need to continue this. And so that's how I decided to compete for the state title. So a lot of girls have coaches and,
Hmm.
the money to buy these expensive gowns. But, me, I've been a bargain shopper, stay a bargain shopper. I
Love it.
figured out ways to get the dresses I needed. And it was such an incredible opportunity. I learned so much about our state, the different communities, traveled up and down all around the state, learned more about issues that are important for folks. I got to be a part of different meetings and was in events that I've never heard of if it wasn't for that platform. So forever indebted to the Miss USA platform.
Yeah, that is incredible. And so I mean, obviously there's a huge philanthropic portion to that as well. Sort of like jumping gears a little bit. So we did make the donation to Bold Futures on your behalf. So that is live now during the session. If anyone wants to join in on that fundraiser, we have that going. Can you explain a little bit more about Bold Futures and why you chose that select nonprofit?
Yeah, definitely. So Bold Futures is a nonprofit here in New Mexico. They lead policy change, research, place-based organizing, and culture shift by and for women and people of color here in New Mexico. And I think the most exciting part of their work to me is their culture shift, because you can put all these different policies and rule changes in place, but until we change the hearts and minds of folks, those policies can mean nothing.
Hmm.
So they work with local artists, New Mexico-based artists, to create art and media that spark dialogue. They did a giant billboard campaign with Indigenous women around reproductive health that was incredible. To be driving by and like, how often do you see a billboard that makes you question your thoughts on reproductive health? So I think that kind of media, that all we need now, like especially now they're so polarized, we just got to spark dialogue. I'm happy to be doing some of that donation to them, and folks on the call or on the live, please donate if you have the means to.
Yes, amazing, fantastic. And really, I mean, it's like I can so speak personally to how authentic you are with really that this is what you care about. Back sophomore year of high school, Native American Club, like you have been in it forever, for the long haul. So it's incredible to see how now moving nearly, gosh, like almost 10 years to the future that you are now working for New Mexico's first Native American Congresswoman. So can you explain a little bit more about how that experience has been?
So it's been incredible. So I moved to DC and started working on the Hill with no prior background work. And not that it's unheard of, but it's not the usual. A lot of folks do the internships and kind of work their way up the ranks. But I came kind of, fresh from the nonprofit world. It's like, hey, like I heard you guys change up here. I'm here to help. Kind of, and just to see, on the one side, it's the historical piece of working for, one of the first Native American women in Congress. There are so many issues that she's been able to bring forth from her unique perspective, specific around climate change. And, here in New Mexico, we respect the land. There's a sense of ancestry here with our outdoor spaces that she's able to bring to Congress. The issues of missing and murdered Indigenous women. She's been able to highlight that because it's such an issue that needs to be addressed, and a lot of folks don't know about it. So just part of hearing those conversations in the office and, meeting folks from around the world who just want to be a part of this historic moment has been, incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I wonder, because so you have such a profound passion for especially the Native American community. I'm wondering, as your identity as a Black woman, how does that, like, I guess, apply to then having such an empathy for a group that you're not a part of, but that, we grew up in New Mexico. We were surrounded by Native American people our entire lives. So, I mean, I guess I'm wondering, how has your personal experience in your Blackness sort of given you the tools and opportunities to really want to be an advocate for another group?
Right. Yeah. So a big part of that is being from New Mexico, and I consider myself as New Mexican as can be. I was born and raised here. So I have been, exposed and been able to love that culture. And I think, I'm a first generation American. So, I'm indigenous. My family's indigenous to Haiti, essentially. So, and there's just so many similarities between, our cultures, the respect for the land, the importance around bringing folks to the table, eating together. There are so many just of those similarities that I think that there are different spaces where I can use my privilege to uplift other folks, that I think that is so important. As folks are reckoning with their privilege, as many things may be stood up against me, I still have rooms that I can uplift other folks in.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw one of my coworkers, Nicole, just commented she's Haitian as well. So you have some, yeah, yeah. It's good energy. Okay, by the way, I have to just throw, speaking of Haiti, you have made, like, I remember this because of you, because of your mom, and literally I'm buying a mirror to put, like, with the mirror to be when you enter our doorway, because I remember you told me Haitian culture to have mirrors by doors and windows to reflect the negative energy outside of the window and door.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I remember that. Like that to me, that's like a staple still of decor.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so every, even in my house in DC, as soon as you enter, there's a mirror there right across from the window. And it's, that's my
Yeah.
culture. Because you believe in it as much as you. It's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's always been something that I have kept with me.
Oh, good.
Okay, so we really want to get into a lot about what you're doing in on Capitol Hill. I think a big part of this for us that we haven't really discussed on Tea Time yet is there's of course a lot of movements happening. There is call your you see it on Instagram all the time. Call your senator, call your congresspeople, text 5569 Floyd. You've seen stuff like that everywhere. I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that wonder, like, what does this do? Does signing a petition actually matter? Where is impact made? And so, can you explain a little bit more about what your role is in the Congresswoman's office and sort of what you're seeing on that side?
Yeah, so I am the legislative correspondent. So I am in charge of our office mail program. So when you are making those phone calls, when you're emailing, when you're texting that 555 number, straight to my inbox. And the reason why I think it's so critical for folks to follow through with those quick actions, pick up the phone call, tell them that you support this legislation, is because whether it's 40 letters, 400 letters, it rings an alarm in the office. I will, bring it up to the higher ups, to the congresswoman. Hey, we got, we got people asking about this legislation, and it's going to spur a response from our office. We're to respond, like, where to begin on this issue. What is the core problem of it? How can it be addressed? So it's so important that folks follow through with that, because as your representatives, constituents, what's important to you is important to your representatives. And by calling in and showing them that this issue is important to you, you help to shape your representatives' legislative agenda, decide what they work on. When you show them that this is important to you, I'm going to keep calling. My friends are going to keep calling. We care about this. You're shaping what they do. So it's critical that folks follow through and engage in that.
So just like to put it out there, so like louder for the people in the back, seriously. It's like, so when you text, when you call, when you write in, that's not going on deaf ears. I think maybe it seems like that because you're not, but like, we're literally hearing it from the person that's receiving those emails, that you see that, and and it's clogging up your inbox. So we have a question: is it bad to use templates on emails? Like, how would you, does it matter if you have 500 emails that all say the exact same thing?
It does, because it is my job and the Congresswoman's job for us to work together and respond to you. But I will say there is power in personalizing your story. So yes, please send that text. And if you have the time and the ability, please follow up with an email. Tell us how this is affecting you, how this is affecting your community, your loved ones. Because, there's so much power in storytelling. Storytelling has the power to, persuade people. It connects people. It kind of, something I like to say is that sometimes when policy issues get up to those higher level decision-making rooms, behind closed doors, we lose the human aspect of it. We lose the human experience of what is actually happening. So I think it's critical that folks tell their stories. You have so much power in your story, and that could be the one, hearing one story oftentimes can be what makes a representative vote a different way. So I think it's critical, sign the template, because, it's going to look like, oh my God, 500 people wrote in on this because you did. But to share your story helps us to better understand the issue as well.
That makes sense. We have another comment that is interesting. So besides just saying that it matters to you, like, what's the best way to frame it? So you said personalization, telling your story, storytelling is important. So that's a really important factor to drive home. And then also, so does reaching out repeatedly help, or is it just bogging down your staff? Is it bogging down you? You're the person reading these.
I say reach out until you hear a response from your representative. It's my with the mail. Don't worry about if it's bogging my email. This is my job. But it's going to elevate the issues. Like I said, ring the alarm on what needs to be done. And yeah, I think it's important that you continue to write in. your representative, it's their responsibility to, they represent you. They have a responsibility to respond to you. So continue until you get a response, I would say.
Yeah, okay, so question also, what about like social? Like if you were to tweet at your senator, is that someone else that's managing social, and sort of how does that have an impact as well? Because again,
Woman is managing her social, at least in our office, and it kind of varies within offices. There's 435 reps. Get to know yours. Get to know yours, and I think any engagement that you can do, find the form of media that's best for you, but engage with your representatives. Let them know that you're aware, that you want to stay up to date with what they're doing. So yeah, I would say social media as well.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, this just feels like a piece that people sort of get a little apathetic on.
Yeah.
And so it's super important to remember that, like, your voice does matter. I know that, you're working on Capitol Hill, but there is a huge piece of this that we had chatted about one-on-one about micro politics as well, and really having impact in local communities. I know, of course, you've spoken a lot about New Mexico and Albuquerque, and really like what that sort of micro political environment looks like. A lot of us here in LA, I think that, there's a huge movement going on right now. We have a massive Black Lives Matter movement that really has captivated the full city. Like, what sort of advice do you have in terms of more on a micro level of how the best way to reach out to those policymakers as well?
Yeah, definitely. So yes, sometimes I think Washington, D.C., somewhat of the federal government can seem so far away. But I think the big thing to keep in mind are how important your local are. You have the power to vote in your judges. You have the power to vote in your mayor, city council people. And they make huge changes, and that affect you every single day. Your county is in charge of a lot of things. And so my question to folks on the live are, do you know your city councilor? Do you know your ward chair? Like, take some time, as people are like, taking time to educate themselves. These are things that affect your everyday life. So I think it's huge for that. There are different advisory boards. I know after the resurgence of, the Black Lives Matter movement, to some folks, they're putting task force together on racial justice. Attend some of those meetings. You are the public. They are supposed to be open to the public. Find the live link, join in, find out what they're talking about, what movements they are planning to make. And there's always room for public comment at the end. I think what's missing, and I've, sat on a few boards similar to that, and, you turn around for public comment and it's like me and a couple other folks. So I think it would be so huge for them to see that people are listening. We are aware now. We care about, some of those administrative rule changes that slip under the radar. So, find those local nonprofits who are doing that work. Find out which different boards, your school boards in your city. Find ways to get involved at the local level, and you will see the change that you're able to make. Definitely.
I love that. We had another question in terms of like the medium of communication. So is there something that you find to be more impactful, whether that's emailing versus calling? Like what to you has driven the most results?
I think I would say maybe, if anything, maybe a toss up between the calls and the emails. When you're on the phone calling, we have to jot down those notes and we pass them on straight to the Congresswoman, let her know that these folks are calling in on a specific issue. And so that's kind of a more immediate, and, at some point it's kind of a ease of medium, whatever for you. But I would say the emails as well, it's at that point, it may be a little bit of a numbers game. We have this many folks writing in, we need a response stat. These people are, I try to get back to folks as soon as possible. So I would say it really is your preference. We try to make it so that you can contact our office in the way that's easiest for you. And I think, if not just to raise an issue, a thing to remember too about your federal representatives are, we have constituent services. If you are having an issue with a federal agency, we can step in as that intermediary and say, hey, my constituent's having this issue. It carries a little weight that the Congresswoman is, fighting for you on your behalf.
Right.
So I think learn more about what they can do. If you're having passport issues, we can help with that. Around stimulus checks, people getting those checks, we helped a lot of folks who were kind of bogged down by IRS rules here and there. So, just contact us, whatever is easiest for you.
Okay, love that. So there's another question here that I think we have a lot. By the way, thank you everyone for your questions. This has been super interactive, which I love. So someone's asking about sort of your emotional, mental health with having this role, because of course I'm sure you are coming across a lot of beautiful notes, but maybe a lot of also kind of sad.
Yeah.
So, how have you been balancing your, like your personal time and you're keeping yourself positive when you're dealing with a lot of negativity, especially this year, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, it can be rough some days, just I feel like in a lot of jobs. And I think the biggest part for me is, being the empath that I am,
Mhm.
having empathy for some folks, they're passionate, they're upset because they are living this every day. Like if your paycheck is not coming through for some reason, um, I understand. I would be upset too. I'd be mad too. Um, so I think personally, there's times I'm gonna close my laptop. I think this is
Mm.
enough for the day kind of thing. Um, and I think in learning and growing, like what is my self-care routine, what's best for me. Sometimes taking those breaks, realizing that these folks are impassioned just the way I am,
Mhm.
um, and kind of doing my best to separate myself from the work when I can.
Yeah. Well, that's so important. Love a little self-care queen. So glad you got that. Did you get your tea, by the way?
I did, and I have to
Okay.
tell you, love to shop
Ooh.
local.
Oh, wow, love. Okay, good job, Kellen.
I did.
So listen, it's time for some tea because I'm curious. You're working on Capitol Hill. We all have seen recently the whole, Cortez like battle with just, it's insane that this is happening in 2020. What I guess, like, what's it like for you? Like, what's it like being on Capitol Hill? Like, do you feel you've mentioned to me that you have found a community in DC of both professionals and just friends, and that's amazing. Do you feel like Capitol Hill is somewhat segregated, and like what's that experience been like, especially in the Trump administration?
Mhm. I wouldn't say segregated, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say, it's it's a different world than the world that I, previously had been in my professional life. In before coming to the Hill, I worked for a nonprofit that, at a certain point, I was trying to incorporate different things that I had done in my past job into the Capitol Hill, like setting intentions before meetings, and it's fast paced. We don't have time to set intentions. It's quick with it and kind of thing. So that was an adjustment for me, like the working the longer hours, and I kind of had to take a little bit of what I know as a homegrown New Mexican, land of enchantment. This can be done tomorrow, I promise you. That kind of thing.
The land of mañana, as we call it.
I took that too. I rode with it because I understand when things are pressing, but I understand when, is this a little bit of the hype of just like working all the time? Can this really be pushed to forward? And I have to, tip my hat to the Congresswoman. She has made, a little New Mexico in DC, and I'm just so thankful for that. She, takes a lot of those homegrown values that we truly believe in. How much we care about our families and our community, making sure we have food in the office at all times.
Mm.
Those kind of things really help to shift me. But, it was an adjustment. I think I always tell people, there's a difference between living in DC and working on Capitol Hill. I'm grateful to DC. I am so, I'm going to tell it what it is. This is the tea. Most of my life in school, I was the only Black person in school.
True.
It felt so beautiful to be out in DC and like, I don't feel singled out. Other people are the minority now. And I think seeing Black professionals in DC has been so huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because here in New Mexico, not that there aren't, I know plenty of Black professionals that I love and look up to, but I don't see as much. And, it can be a little disheartening not to see anybody that looks like you in higher positions where you're from. But to be in DC and on the Hill and seeing members and chiefs of staff that have been in this work for so long and they look like me has been so incredible to me personally. And something, I always talk about people like, I hope to learn all I can in DC and bring it back home. And that's one of those things, like, making sure that we're putting women and women of color in those decision-making spaces.
Absolutely. Love that. And yeah, I think like when I said segregated was definitely not the right word. I meant more like divisive. you know, like between just like different energies on the Hill, especially now, right? Because you're in the majority Democratic Congress. And so, I mean, I think maybe you have a little bit more padding, it maybe more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's something folks had talked to me about. You know, I came in, we are the majority. And, you know, when I'm doing different things, we're like, oh, well, it's not usually like that. We're not able, you know. So I think, you know, culturally, it can feel a little divisive. You know, we haven't been in the office since COVID.
Right.
It's been, you know, all this resurgence of things, but I know that it would be uncomfortable, you know, because at a certain point, it's like, how can you, you know, stare at this issue and, you know, smile at me in the hallway? At some point, it's like the two's not adding up, you know. And I think that comes with just working in politics. It can be hard to have friends and colleagues that have different viewpoints of you, and may, you know, they say, you know, this is policy wise, I only think this way, but it's like, this is affecting my actual life. So at some point, are you really my friend? Are we really colleagues? So it can be difficult at times, but
yeah,
I think managing that, and, you know, I do feel a shift coming. I think people are coming to terms with some of that privilege and such that we talked about.
absolutely. And, you know, I mean, going back to your earlier point about really having representation in these higher leadership positions with women of color like yourself, that is so fundamental. And I know that we had chatted about this, and I think this is a really great, like, last point to drive home in terms of what your thoughts are about just women in general, but especially, you know, women of color that are going out for these types of opportunities, and sort of like what advice you would give to a young female, maybe, you know, like leaving college or on some, you know, trajectory of her career, and like, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So, you know, first and foremost, I say, you know, join those campaigns, learn as much, say yes to opportunities. Seeing it all as a learning opportunity. You know, straight out of college, how I really got involved in this is, you know, I'm going to be candid. I was working at the mall. I needed extra money, so I found out that knocking on doors and asking people if they, you know, if they knew about the candidate that was running for their state rep. That is kind of my first instance. You get to learn more about your community. What do they care about? You know, you're literally walking the neighborhoods. You see, you know, the different, you know, infrastructure needs. I think, and second to that, you know, and this is something I know I battle with, and probably many other women of color, is like the imposter syndrome. I promise you, you have the skills and the knowledge to do anything that you want to do. And I think a part of that is, like I said, you know, not seeing people that look like you can make you think like, oh, well, you know, I can't do that. And I'm here to tell you, I promise you that you can. I think, you know, you do want to try to build a community around you of folks that will uplift you and will, you know, provide you with that reassurance. But a lot of that has to come within. There are many jobs I've taken or things that I've gotten involved with that I was not sure that I was qualified for, but at some point you just got to believe in yourself, and the skills come with experience. So I would definitely tell them, like, get involved at any level, join a campaign, start a drive, help go to your Secretary of State, find out how to be a voter registrar, help vote, help folks get registered to vote. You know, there are so many different opportunities. Please DM me if you have any questions. I can
Yes, yeah. No, I mean, thank you for providing that as yourself as a resource, because, like, I mean, you are the proof of the pudding, you know, like, seriously. And thank you for being candid about that, because it's important for people to hear it, that, you know, like, your life can seriously change over the course of a couple of years, you know, like, seriously. I mean, it's a couple of years ago, you're saying you're folding clothes at the mall, and now you're working on Capitol Hill with, you know, the first Native American Congresswoman, which is like, you're making history and setting such an amazing example for other young women. And so, yeah, very inspirational. And I just love that. I think it's like, for me, what I heard from all that, though, where, like, I think people get nervous is, but I don't know what's the first step, or I don't really know. And it becomes
first step sometimes, you know, like, you know, I've met, you know, trying to understand, you know, how different folks have came to the Hill. You know, you get coffee with different people, trying to understand their experience. How did you get here? And literally every person I've met with has a different way that they've shown up here. So I don't think there's any real, like, first step. Oh, you must get an internship. Oh, you must do this. You know, take that. Your first step is whatever you want it to be. And I think just remembering that you don't have to match up with so many different people. Like, you know, for the Congresswoman herself, she didn't go to school right away. You know, she went to college, to law school later in life, and now she's the first Native American woman in Congress. So I don't, the hard thing too is, you know, especially with social and, you know, working with so many influencers, you know, we know the impact of like comparing yourself on social media, or, you know, like, oh, well, you know, I graduated with these folks and they're already doing this. You got to forget all about all that. You are on your own path. And so your first step is your own first step, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you bring up one, I think we have time for like maybe one more point. I know we're reaching the end here. In terms of influencers, because that's what we do, right? We're working with video content creators, and we are in social commerce. And so we know that we're working with a huge group of people that have a lot of power in their voices. And, you know, we celebrate that our community is extremely diverse. We have influencers coming from all different types of economic and racial backgrounds. For some of our, you know, for some of the white influencers in our network who I think want to push change, and there's a good intention there, and I think that sometimes it gets a little lost in translation. What's your best piece of advice to be supportive of somebody, you know, to be supportive of the Black Lives Matter movement in a way that's impactful and authentic? We had chatted a little about this one-on-one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is with great power comes great responsibility. So I think, you know, because you have this great platform, you have a voice, you have folks that care about what you have to say and when you say it. So I think this is me to the influencers, you have a responsibility to amplify the voices who have not been heard because of your privilege or because of your opportunity. I think, you know, I talked about, you know, we talked about some of the influences that stood out to me, because I went through and I unfollowed anybody who wasn't in line with what I was thinking. And, you know, as much as I don't want to
purge, give it a purge,
little purge. But in that same vein, not only did I purge, but, you know, so many other people were posting folks who were doing the right thing. I followed so many other people who were teaching me so much. You know, creatives who are those little infographics. That's huge. I love that, you know, kind of, I don't want to say propaganda, but in that propaganda style, like, hey, this is what's happening. You know, I want a quick swipe. Give me a lesson real quick as I swipe through this.
Yeah.
I think it's huge for folks to amplify those voices who are not already heard. You know, I use this example. I follow a few fitness pages, not that I'd be working out or anything, but I follow a few pages. And one woman that I follow in particular, she made sure to follow. She said, hey, these are other Black fitness people who do exactly what I do. Please give them a follow. And so, you know, and here's the thing, I look for receipts. I even checked on folks who posted it for the moment and then removed those posts because it didn't match with their aesthetic. You know, and I think, you know, that authenticity of keeping it on your page. I've seen folks create highlights on their page about what can be done. Here's a link, you know, I'm going to be looking at your story. Give me a link that I can, you know, sign my name on this petition real quick. You know, folks know how to bring those easy access type of resources, you know, on other things, you know, tap on this and you're subscribed to this new thing now. Make it something important. You know, how can you use your platform in a way that folks aren't used to you? You know, I've been on TikTok a lot. Can you, you know, show me a TikTok? What are you gonna, instead of just a fashion blog, show me what you're gonna wear to vote. Show me what you're gonna wear, like, while you fill out your census. Like, those are the kind of outfits I want to see.
Love that. You're giving us so many content ideas. I feel like we need to pitch a brand to this, because I think that's actually, like, that's brilliant, and it's so timely this year. And it's a great way to really get people involved and to bring more awareness to, you know, to disrupt things, right? Because I think with content creators, where they struggle is that, you know, you have a certain programming and you don't want to like veer away from it too much, but then you want to be an advocate. And so how can you do that in a way that your audience is receptive to? And we know that sometimes it's those influencers that are afraid to do it that would have the biggest impact, because their followers may be the ones that really could be persuaded. So, you know, we always have to avoid kind of just like preaching to the choir here. It's like we need to be expanding our reach. And so anyways, yeah, Naomie, thank you so much for joining. This has been so incredible to hear from you. I hope this was so informational to everyone. So this is Tea Time. We will be back next week with Annalise Campbell. So Annalise is from traditional agency media, and she actually left that because she saw that there was so many things that needed to be corrected in terms of diversity and inclusion for influencers of color. So she left that, started her own influencer agency representing exclusively influencers of BIPOC backgrounds. And she's now teaching brands, like, this is how you do inclusivity. This is what this needs to look like. So another interesting conversation coming up. Thank you, everyone, again. Naomie, love you. You look stunning. And yeah, everyone have a great weekend. Be safe.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye.